Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to my Politics 2100 video cast here on YouTube. So this episode I'm calling It's Hard to Tell a Story Without a Hero. And then in parentheses, there are few heroes in US politics. So this is a reframing or rephrasing or another perspective on this big problem in US politics of understanding what I was calling in the last video or a recent video tapestry, or the map of what's going on. And I mean, what's going on is very concerning, and there's lots of trends in it. And anyway, in this map, I find, and I think, if you do a careful reading of news sources and you cull through them and you try to understand behavior of politicians and the trend, the dynamic of the politics, you come to the conclusion that certainly at the central, most powerful positions in US politics and also in the media infrastructure that supports and massages and also is a political power within the United States, a very strong one, a very powerful one, that it's very hard to find heroes. And this is a reframing of my efforts in the last 2 years to create this picture of what's going on that is realistic, not cynical and not fatalistic, but also focused on the reality and also the trends toward perhaps a better future. Okay. But anyway, in this picture, the people who are most powerful in the Republican Democratic Party and also in the media are, in my opinion, not heroes. In other words, they don't come across as good, okay? They are not good people in general, okay? But on the other hand, it's hard but you need to differentiate between the levels of not good or bad. And I have often said this, to differentiate between bad and worse, okay? And because it's an extremely corrupt, as I was just reading on Twitter, Ryan Cooper was retweeting or talking about Noam Chomsky's observation that we have wholesale corruption that people on a day-to-day level don't see very much, okay? So they don't understand the big picture corruption of US politics very much, and also the media's role in massaging and hiding that corruption, hiding the money trails basically that influence both political parties and the most powerful people in those political parties. So anyway, I find that when it's hard, especially in the context of, for instance, discussions on Twitter, and this video is inspired by an interaction I had today with some people on Twitter, or some reflections on that I had, that people are looking for their heroes. They want to identify with someone who's going to save them, someone who's going to make it all better. And obviously with the Republican Party, at least much of the base, and again, this is being contested right now, and I think that Trump may experience some challenges very soon, and so it's not clear whether his uncontested leadership will remain uncontested. But anyway, we have the base of the Republican Party looking to him, or to figures like him, or someone to be this quasi-magical leader with some mythical powers And in a way, and this is another video that I would like to make about, basically, there's some neo-royalism going on. They're basically where someone is anointed the leader, and they are infallible, and they're basically that they if not infallible, that their fallibility adds to the sense of their being a beloved figure, that is the head of the family, so to speak, the national family, and they are the father or mother, mostly the father in our culture, of that, and that they, similar to how some, you might conceive of a royal of some kind, who is installed, and basically has an uncontested position of leadership, and is a way is considered to be part of the body, the national body, in a way. So anyway, but that's another video to be made. But what I am observing, though, is that there's a desire, not only on the part of Trump supporters or the Republicans, but also on the part of Democrats, to heroize or make into heroes people who are not heroes, or to idealize, or to constantly place people in the position of being a hero or being a protagonist. Okay, certainly they are protagonists. And it's not entirely unreasonable, in the sense that these people have enormous power relative to what we have, ordinary people have. And so we want them to do things for us, or do things that create something that we want to see happen in the world. And so, it's hard to talk in shades of gray, and to talk in shades of actually not gray, but more, some, in other words, a color, or a negative, in other words, degrees of negativity, okay, degrees of bad and worse. And so anyway, so it's kind of, I'm observing in my personal life, in people I know, in my family members, and so forth and so on, the desire, the impulse to raise up people and make them into heroes, not really recognizing, in my opinion, the reality. Okay, and that's partly an information problem, in that the information, and this is something that Cenk Uygur has been pointing out a lot in recently on Young Turks, is that certainly the centrist and center-left, mostly centrist leadership, and center-right leadership of the Democratic Party is made to seem as if they are great humanitarians, and that they are very intelligent and very wonderful people and great politicians by the media, that there's a lot of PR for. Now, that PR can be turned on and off in a way to try to control the politicians if they do something that is considered to be not in the interest of some consensus that is tending toward protecting donors, protecting advertisers from scrutiny of any kind. And that's where the corruption, the massive wholesale corruption, comes in, because basically the corporate elite and the ultra wealthy are being shielded from scrutiny, and their power is being shielded from scrutiny by creating these figures, or by the celebration of these politicians as great humanitarian, great, nice people, and wonderful, and so forth and so on. And if you think woke is good, that they're woke, or whatever, or that they're semi-woke, or they're at least but anyway, what's being hidden, according to Cenk's analysis now, and he calls it a cult, and it has a cult-like I see, and I see it in some family members too, the sense of being a membership in this media cult, okay, where, and other people I know, and people I interact with on Twitter and so forth and so on, that the media cult creates this picture that doesn't look at the money trail, okay, that doesn't look at which seems to explain the actual behavior of the politicians, what actually happens, what actually gets passed, what actually, and also the way that those politicians just get shielded from scrutiny by the media, and it's like, oh, whoops, there were great plans, and then they can't do it anymore because of factors, because of the parliamentarian, because of whomever. So, and so this, as Cenk calls it, a cult. This cult, is promoted, and part of being in a cult is that you have a leader or a hero. Okay, so, and this is why I titled it "It's Hard to Tell a Story Without a Hero." That it is hard to, and I think it's an act of emotional maturity, emotional and hard work to try to resist this groupthink on the part of the media, and this constant and also our own hopes. In other words, literally, American democracy is on a knife's edge, and the Democratic Party is the only vehicle by which American democracy can be saved within the next few months, okay, or at least the actions it could take. In other words, that let's hope that we can get out, and the COVID crisis can be over quickly, and we can get out and demonstrate and interact and organize communities and so forth and so on. So, and organize labor more than already than's already happening now, and to really push, okay, so we don't just sit back and wait for these politicians, but there are certain acts that the politicians need to do. So they are sitting at the levers of certain of the state and of government that can, obviously also who controls it is one thing, and therefore the dominant supposed goals of that group, and they are slightly different. They are different between the Democrats and the Republicans. Again, in my opinion, bad and worse. Okay, so much worse, bad and much worse. But there's still the intentions of the Democrats are, not quite heroic, but they are goodish. Okay, but the intentions are not what actually happens. In other words, the intentions, that they want to be recognized for their intentions, they want to be rewarded for their intentions, but in the execution, they are always falling short, and this is where their non-heroicness becomes obvious, okay, and should be obvious to people who are following closely the politics and are just looking at the sequence of events, and unfortunately the media tries to interrupt our ability to, or the most of the mainstream media tries to interrupt our ability to see the continuity of, or the sequence of events, maybe is the better way to put it. And so the story, okay, what I'm talking, and the way they're trying to just create a hero and always, create figures of comfort, let's say, for their readers, okay, and that their readers feel comfortable with these characters, and they're quasi-hero. And hero is not in the sense of that they're doing dramatic things that are risking their careers and risking, their lives, maybe, so forth and so on. In fact, one of my observations and my fears about U.S. politics is, in fact, that too few politicians are willing of the politicians who have good intentions are willing to risk their lives. Some, I think, are doing very risky things. I think Cori Bush, I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I think Rashida Tlaib, I think Ilhan Omar are doing acts that are somewhat risky for a political leader, and they seem not as afraid as their more centrist Democratic colleagues in terms of taking stances that, for instance, oppose their coup-oriented or their coup-driving neo-fascist Republican counterparts. That they seem to be willing to take stances that are more hard edge and hard line in terms of prosecuting and punishing people who are plotting to overthrow the U.S. government from within, and so, or who have plotted and may plot again to do so. So, and at least it seems that the evidence is mounting that that has been the case. So, heroism, is not necessarily the one that what I'm talking about is not necessarily this kind of more dramatic, I'm fighting for you and I'm potentially may die, okay, may be killed, okay, for you, but still, what I'm talking about is figures of comfort, figures who are protagonists, who are, the nice people, who are the good people, who you think are the people like you, or however you identify with them, and anyway, that those figures are unfortunately in U.S. politics, many of them quite corrupt and quite complacent and complicit in what's going on in terms of our collapsing social system and collapsing democracy. So anyway, so I just wanted to put this out there as a observation, and as an observation about people's expectations for how a narrative should go, and also how hard it is for people writing, and people, especially people writing within mainstream media companies, or speaking or whatever, presenting within those, and writing and presenting, whatever stories and so forth and so on, that they could create a narrative that was compelling, that was, but that still didn't have these protagonists or these heroes, okay, in the stories, that they were accounts of the situation as it's going on, and also even with criticism, and then holding those powerful people in power, because the people who they're reporting on often are people in power, that those people could be held more accountable by a narrative that doesn't just heroize them, or sort of soft focus, present them in a soft focus way about their deeds or lack thereof, or just their personalities, okay, in some form or other. Anyway, so just a small observation that I wanted to bring up and see whether other people feel like this is something that happens, and I mean, I think it just as a quick addendum, I think this is a function of also of splitting, which is a psychological phenomenon where people try to divide good and evil, and so the protagonist being the good guy, and then the villains or whoever it is being the bad people, and that in politics there is a natural, or there's a tendency to split, and to exaggerate the good and bad characters, and so overcoming that splitting is hard within a political setting, and it requires lots of work, and it requires lots of information, and a detailed picture that some people are not don't have a lot of patience with, or it's just hard to actually create that picture, to write it, to present it, okay, and in a sequential way, as whatever, in a video, in a news story. So anyway, so if this set of ideas is of interest to you and you have more thoughts, please comment below. If you like the video, please like it. And also, if you're liking the content on Politics 2100, please subscribe, because there's more to come. Thanks. See you soon.